Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Broku, and welcome back to another Black Clover video. And today, I'm doing, as promised long ago, Asta versus Yuno. You've wanted this for a while, but I wanted to wait until the arc was actually over to finish, not finish, but get into this video, and well, now it is over. Asta and Yuno is one of my favorite rivalries in shonen, because it actually feels fresh. They actually like each other, they want the best for each other, they both motivate each other to become stronger, and they also love each other dearly. Better than the tropey rivalry of a good boy and an aggressive rival. Now this is going to be actually very hard to analyze since Asta and Yuno have never technically had an actual battle, and they both have gotten several amps and buffs and nerfs throughout this entire arc. So this video will work to analyze their speed, strength, durability, skills, spells, and more to try and figure out who would win in this 1 versus 1 battle. Honestly, this is going to be one of the hardest versus battles I've ever had to make because Asta and Yuno are truly rivals in every sense of the word and thus very, very close to each other in power. I decided that first I will go over Yuno and his abilities, then go with Asta before I go into my overall fight analysis. Yuno is obviously a wind mage, and a powerful one at that, while wielding a legendary 4-leaf Clover grimoire and the wind spirit self named Bell, who acts in a way that augments Yuno's already powerful wind magic to make it stronger. Now of course Yuno does have transformations, but let's talk about his base form. This is important because this fight, it's going to start with both Asta and Yuno in their base forms. And, oh yeah, I likely won't be doing Asta and Yuno at their peaks in the devil fight of the Black Clover manga, where they're in their amped elf form and their amped black form, because they're likely going to lose this form after the arc. It seems like Yuno already has in this recent chapter, and Asta was getting this amp because his devil in his grimoire was resonating with the word devil, and thus he was getting anti-magic amps, likely meaning Asta will lose his buff as well. But still though, they both got stronger through this arc. Yuno increased his human level of power better, as stated by Raya, and Asta became better at controlling his anti-magic in several ways. But if you want to know who would win in the strongest versions of themselves, I would have to go with Asta just because, well, Yuno in his most powerful state was still equal in speed to Asta, even though Yuno had the Lumiere's light magic spell that increased his power and speed. So that means if he didn't have it, Asta would be faster, and Asta's most powerful version of Black Divider would just cut probably right through anything that Yuno has, especially the Spirit Zephyr, for multiple reasons, because it's just a sword made out of pure mana. But anyways, let's get into base Yuno again. Yuno's stats are as follows from the guidebook: a 5 out of 5 in magic amount, a 5 out of 5 in magic sensing, a 4 out of 5 in magic control, a 3 out of 5 in physical strength, and a 4 out of 5 in cleverness. This means that Yuno has mana that rivals the level of captains, and he even surpasses a captain in mana, as Jack the Ripper only has a 4 out of 5 in magic amount, which makes Yuno very special when it comes to his magic amount. Yuno is also blessed with a 4th leaf, which gives him increased luck. Luck can come in multiple ways, one of those things being new spells. Yuno, of course, can also boost his physical abilities via reinforcement magic, whether that be the basic form of reinforcement magic, or the advanced versions, which are a mana skin, seemingly increases speed, strength, and durability to an even greater degree than regular reinforcement magic. And again, with an emphasis on durability, Mana Zone borrows nature's mana in the surrounding area, and giving that Yuno, as he has more power than he can naturally control, increases his aura into a zone. In this zone, reaction times are drastically amplified, as well as strength, speed, durability, spell strength, and most importantly, spells can be spammed from anywhere within this area, which means if someone were in Yuno's mana zone, they could be hit from multiple directions at once. Yuno, of course, can also fly with the aid of his wind magic, which could be a difficulty for base Asta, and when it comes to spells, Yuno has a multitude of them. Towering Tornado, which just spawns a small but powerful tornado. Crescent Moon Sickle is a sharp concentration of wind, but we don't know the extent of its power. Tornado Fang is similar to Towering Tornado, but unlike real tornadoes, it is pointed like a blade or a fang, seemingly directed at an opponent, with the bottom of the tornado facing towards them, and is seemingly a crowd control attack, with high attack potency. Swift White Bow is a bow made of wind that shoots out arrows, well, made of wind. It is a very fast attack spell that is split into multiple attacks that can attack multiple enemies at once, or just make it hard for a single enemy to evade or counter. Yuno can also create a giant wind sword that is not Zephyr. This spell is unnamed though, but it was strong enough to impale a diamond general, which I would say this puts Yuno's attack potency at least vice captain level, although that was with the amped power of Bell. It wasn't just Yuno. Then there's Sylph's Breath. It's a massive tornado spell with more powerful than his other ones. There's Wind Blade Shower. It's basically just like Pottery's Light Sword attack, just a likely slower version because it's wind. Although at this point now, Yuno is now probably faster and stronger than that version of Pottery, the one who fought Yami way back then. Spirit Dive is one of the most important things that Yuno can do. It is basically his transformation. He combines Mana Skin with his Wind Spirit. This gives him a massive boost in mana, and he can also use the Spirit's magic like it's his own, instead of just combining it. He can use Spirit Storm, a Kamehameha-like blast of very powerful wind energy. Combine it with Mana Zone to use multiple at the same time and shoot them in different directions. Spirit's Hush Dance is paired with Mana Zone, and in this, Yuno can dodge and evade at extremely high speeds. At one point, dodging light attacks from both Raya and Pottery at the same time, and then also dodging light attacks that were from Pottery while carrying two bodies at the same time. The Spirit Sword of Zephyr is a very powerful magic sword that can affect even devil magic. It takes the remnants of allies' magic, and that is what gives it its power. So unfortunately, it won't be so useful in this fight, not only because, taking others' magic would be cheating, because it's a 1-versus-1 fight, not a group fight, but it is a sword made of pure mana. Asta's anti-magic swords will just cut right through it. Now, Yuno would easily be captain level now, after all of his buffs and new spells, but does lose a heck of a lot of his power with the loss of Elven Mana, which means he loses speed, durability, attack potency, and stamina. That's kind of it for Yuno, but now let's talk about Asta and his base form powers. Asta in his base form has a 5 out of 5 in physical strength, and a 0 in every magic category. But he has a 5 in willpower, and a 4 in cleverness. Now, although Asta doesn't have mana sensing, we might as well give him a 5 out of 5 in just sensing, because he can use Ki. With Ki, his sensory skills are so advanced that he could even parry an advanced light spell from Gauche, Elf Gauche, with his eyes closed. In base form, Asta's mainstay is his physical strength. Yeah, he has no magic, we all know that. But don't let it fool you. Even his pure physical speed made a captain think he was actually using a movement spell. In fact, Asta's base form speed is super ludicrous. In fact, I think Asta's base form is just downplayed pretty heavily. I would say in his base form alone, not black form, just base Asta is probably vice captain level at least. Based on multiple feats, like in his base form, holding his own against Ladros, and that was a weaker Asta, then Asta holding his own against an amped vice captain in Longris, and even in base form, outruns one of Mereoleona's spells. And when I mean outrun, he had to have ran several times faster, and then with just a physical punch, was strong enough to incapacitate Raya. He was also able to parry light and dark magic, paired with spatial magic from Elf Raya, which means in base he can now parry light magic that was even faster than Pottery's light magic when he fought Yami. Since Raya was stronger than Pottery, and he brings copied magic power up to his level. He's also strong enough to revert a combo spell from 5 elves, 2 being captain levels prior to the elf form, and he was able to revert it twice. Both times were multiplied stronger by Zora's trap magic. For a base form comparison, Yuno held his own against a suppressed Rill. Meanwhile, base Asta had to go into an Elven amped Rill who had prep time. While he did have Mimosa healing him after a while, it is still impressive that he went against an Elf Rill with prep time and still got out of there alive. Meanwhile, Yuno in his base form fought a suppressed Rill. Not a suppressed Elf Rill, but a suppressed base Rill. Another thing is that what's actually impressive is that in Hajj, base Asta and base Elf Yuno actually seem to be on par with each other. That adds up too, since weeks prior, Yuno used a full power spell with Bell and attacked Asta to prove themselves to the kingdom, and Asta countered it casually. This logically would put current base Asta higher above current base Yuno. In base form, Asta has access to his 3 swords. The Demon Slayer sword, which just works as a blunt anti-magic sword, great for strikes, counters, and reflections. The Demon Dweller sword acts as a sharper sword that Asta can move faster with, and has other abilities like absorbing allies' power, and even enemies' power, but Asta doesn't really have great use of them yet. Then there's the Demon Destroyer sword. This is also a sword of great anti-magic power, which can be used similar to the other swords, but has a really broken passive ability that straight up cancels nearby spells. I think it would be best for Asta in this fight to use a combo of the Destroyer and the Demon Slayer swords, actively canceling some of Yuno's spells while using the Demon Slayer to counter ones he can't cancel and using that for attack. Now, in the base forms, I believe Asta has the speed advantage, and to be honest, what spells are going to work on Asta if Yuno can even be fast enough to hit him? The only one I can see is the massive spell, but there isn't much negating the fact that Asta could just cancel the Demon Destroyer sword, or use both the swords to counter, or evade it with his amazing base power speed. And remember, base Asta outran an attack by Leona, one of the most powerful captains, if not the most powerful captain in Black Clover. We need to remember that also, Asta has several advantages in the base form fights. One, Yuno cannot sense him, while Asta can easily sense Yuno in reverse, because of Ki. And Yuno can't sense Asta because he has no magic. Another thing here is anti-magic can counter wind, because anti-magic is just a counter to magic. And even physically, base Asta could be able to tank a lot of attacks from Yuno. Asta was able to survive an attack from Spirit Ladros, whose power surpassed Third Eye Fauna, and this Asta was weaker than the current Asta. I don't see Yuno, in his base form, even with Sylph, being as strong as Spirit Ladros, as current base Yuno should be weaker than that Third Eye Fauna, and Sylph should also be weaker based on the lore that the Salamander has the highest attack power. So in base forms, Asta should have speed advantage, attack potency advantage, and has the magic elemental advantage. And I think what's a very important aspect to this fight is that for years, Asta and Yuno trained together, working on their physical strength, while also Yuno working out his magic, because Asta had none. But Asta spent these years working on his resistance to Yuno's magic. Yes, as Asta as a young boy, through sheer will and physical strength, walked through one of Yuno's magic tornadoes, and they trained constantly together, which means Asta has the experience against Yuno's wind. Meanwhile, Yuno has little to no experience against Asta's anti-magic swords, except for during the award ceremony previously mentioned. So Asta has an advantage with experience against wind magic that Yuno just can't replicate. The only thing close that Yuno has was when he fought against Licht's sword magic, but Licht only had one sword, was holding back heavily, and it technically wasn't even anti-magic since he purified the swords back into regular sword magic. Either way, when it comes to base form, even with Yuno using Monozone plus Sylph, I think the overall advantage goes to Asta, as the only advantage I believe Yuno has in that is his versatility, and to be able to attack from multiple places at once. So like I said, Yuno has no base form feats that puts him anywhere close to Asta. Base Elf Yuno, and base Asta seemed equal when they were fighting in Hajj, so that means that base Asta would be stronger than base human Yuno. And Asta has really good durability, anti-magic swords, and key sensing, while Yuno would not be able to sense Asta at all. So that's why I think that in base forms, Asta would defeat Yuno. But this fight also extends to the transformations. Asta has his black form, Black Asta, and Yuno with Spirit Dive. Both work similarly. Their magic or anti-magic power is increased, which thus increases all their speed, physical strength, durability, and stamina, and also the power of their individual attacks and reaction times. I know recent anime viewers were automatically going to assume that Spirit Dive is above Black Asta, based on what we saw and what the statements were said, where Yuno said he was about to pull ahead of Asta, and Asta actually believed it. But based on future events of the show, it doesn't really show this. I guess future events in the manga. In fact, when Yuno gets an Elven boost of mana to pair with his Spirit Dive, he's not really that much ahead of a tired Black Asta. And when Black Asta broke his limits, they seem to be equal again, if not Asta actually being faster. Because there was a tired Black Asta when they fought against the two elves, one being Elf Klaus, they looked equal. And then when they fought Licht, Asta got tired, but then he got back into his black form and actually flew faster than Yuno flew. And Yuno even admitted the Asta just broken his limits. So if Black Asta was even just equal to Elven Spirit Dive, then he couldn't have been that far behind regular Spirit Dive, when he fought Rill. In fact, Asta should have been stronger. Some time did pass between these events, and it seems that both of them actually probably got at least stronger, since Yuno didn't use Mana Zone when he was in the Royal Knight tournament. He only used it after becoming a Royal Knight, but either way, even when they were at their peak, Asta was a bit faster than Yuno, since Yuno was aided in both power, speed, and durability by the first Wizard King's Light Protection spell. Asta has a greater control of his anti-magic now, as despite having both the Devil's Mana and Yuno's Mana next to him, he was able to disable his anti-magic magnet and maneuver behind the Devil. This means it is likely Yuno could not spam multiple wind spells to keep Asta moving around, sort of like what Elf Ghost did to him. It seems Asta's finally gained control of this, based on him being able to move around the Devil. Seemingly Yuno's most powerful attack while in Spirit Dive, it's actually probable and maybe even likely that Asta could just fly right through it, just like he did with Spirit Ladros' attack, as it's likely far weaker than Dark Elf Pottery's Divine Ray of Punishment. Although, there is one major caveat here to Asta and his black form. It does not last nearly as long as Spirit Dive. Spirit Dive lasts way longer than the black form, and Spirit Dive does not seem to have the negative effects on the body right after. Meaning, if Yuno was able to outlast Black Asta, and then wait till Asta was in his base form again, Asta would then have to try and hold off a Spirit Dive Yuno until he regained enough stamina, which is where this battle gets really hard to determine. But with Black Divider and Black Hurricane, I'm stuck to give the slight edge to Asta here. In this battle, I think Asta would win 6 out of 10 times against his orphan brother Yuno. I think a lot of it has to do with, though, the advantage of based Asta over base Yuno. He might be able to finish it before they even transform, and Yuno could technically just fly and throw attacks from afar, but he wouldn't be able to use Mana Zone in that sense on Asta. He'd be far away, and he probably wouldn't be able to land big attacks on Asta since he'd be flying up in the air. And in that sense, if Yuno does just fly up in the air, Asta could just do this. So yeah, guys, this is a tough one. I'm just going to give the edge to Asta here. I think he's going to win 6 out of 10 times. But again, really just depends on, I guess, how fast it takes both of them to transform. In the manga, and currently in the manga, it seems that Asta can transform into his black form way faster. It takes him some time, although it's rather quickly, more like how fast it takes to transform into Super Saiyan. But Spirit Dive lasts way longer, way better stamina. Black form doesn't have that level of stamina like Spirit Dive. But honestly, I do think that Asta could defeat Yuno before it runs out. And also, I do think that Asta could defeat Yuno before they even need to transform. I just think base Asta is way above base Yuno. Even base Yuno, who has Mana Zone plus Sylph. But anyways, guys, that's it for the video. I think Yuno would lose 6 out of 10 times, only win 4 out of 10 times. In fact, I might even say this is going to be like Asta wins 5 out of 5 out of 10. It's super close. It really, really is. And I really like the dynamic with that, rival system. But let me know your thoughts down below. Let me know if I got anything wrong. Let me know if you disagree. Any more new information to add that I just missed. Let me know your thoughts down below. What other versus battles do you want from Black Clover or Black Clover versus other series? Please do leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hope you guys all have an amazing day. Plus...